have I made? Now, I'm going to give you another opportunity to straw man my position. What claim have I made?
Do you think it is a good thing to make
what claim have I made
in the middle of a point? Do you think it's a good idea to make a point counterpoint in the middle of a point? Do you think that that's a charitable way to have a discussion?
Well, I just want you to understand that you have shown a propensity already to straw man people's claims. So
there's been no straw man, sir. And again, the only straw man that you brought up, you then understood that you made an argument while having absolutely no understanding of the conversation prior to that you came into. The only thing that happened under that was you came in and white knighted for your buddy who was having an issue, having a discussion, and now you have completely taken over this discussion. Well, because it seems to be that your buddy was getting picked on and you didn't like that.
It has nothing to do with that. I'm generally not a casual observer. I do like to engage with people. If Space wants to jump back in, by all means. I wasn't trying to steal anybody's thunder.
I don't mind. I mean, anybody who wants to talk, as long as everybody's being respectful.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
I did kind of sense that he was trying to shift the burden back to me. Like, I had a claim that I needed to prove.
Of course. Yeah, that's common practice.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's nothing new to me.
I assume, Space, that you identify as an atheist or a non-believer.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe in some state of transition, that whatever the case may be.
I'm not in a state of transition. I haven't believed in a God for years and years, like decades.
Sure. And let me ask you an honest question about that, Space. If you were provided sufficient evidence, would you be willing to change your belief?
Sure, if it was good enough.
Okay. Now, let me ask this of any of the Christians. If you were provided, what is your best evidence that you can present for people like us to believe?
Well, before we jump onto that, right? One second there. So, I mean, what would you want to see, Space Raptor, that would convince you? I mean, give an example of what the sort of thing you'd want to see that would convince you.
Well, I mean, Christians claim that there is this, deity like Yahweh. Let's just pick on Yahweh for a second. And he talked to Moses. He appeared to Moses. It appears that this is like a personal God. Like if some super powerful entity came, it doesn't necessarily need to look like a person, but communicated with me, and I could verify that everybody else saw and experienced the same thing, so that I was reasonably certain I wasn't experiencing some delusion. And we had, I suppose, some sort of record of it, like a videotape or something. That would convince
me. A videotape?
Well, yeah.
Do you need wait a second. Do you need a videotape?
Hold on. Let me explain.
Just stand by and let him finish. He's on a great path.
Okay. Sometimes there are things like mass delusions. These things happen.
Right.
That's why I say I would want some sort of like instrumentation that recorded the thing.
External evidence to confirm what your senses told you. Right.
Okay,
so wait a second. So hold on. Let's just stop there, because if you get too far on, you're going to make too many points and it's going to be difficult to address all of them. So you're saying that you want external evidence.
External from his personal experience. Stop it. External evidence from his personal experience. Now, quit. You are seriously the worst at strawmanning people's arguments. Stop it. You're not. No.
Me.
You don't get to start off by objectively misrepresenting his claim.
To start out however I choose to.
Okay, well, you can feel free to, but we can.
Standing up for your buddy and let him speak for himself. And
I'm standing up for the sake of logic. I'm standing up for the sake of logic. If you attempt to use logic, then you already presuppose God and your ability to use logic. So why don't you just allow your buddy? That is the most ridiculous claim I've ever heard.
Yes.
That is most ridiculous claim I've ever heard.
The presuppositional argument?
That is just so ridiculous.
Is there anybody else that would like to offer some reasonable conversation? Space and I are both honestly.
That's an interesting topic, right? I mean, what's ridiculous about that claim? I mean, I don't think I've heard that one walked through before, but
because the only reason that I can have that opinion is because God. Like, do you know how that is such a stretch of imagination? Listen, the larger the claim, the larger the evidence you need to present.
No,
so present.
But I get that. But you're saying that that's not true. But I mean, there would have to be, to convince someone of that. You can't just say, well, it's not true. You'd have to give some sort of argument against it, right? So maybe if Kathleen could lay down where she was going with that, and then you can give an argument against it.
No. What? First of all, Kathleen needs to understand that if you are going to respond to a statement that someone has made, and the initial thing you do is misrepresent the position that they were holding in that conversation, then nothing you say after that is valid. That is called straw man argument.
Wait a second.
I mean, well, we seem to have got a little bit.
Hold on, Ray. Let me ask you a question real quick. Let me ask you a question. Did it sound like I misrepresented Space Raptor's position?
Space Raptor, no, hold on. Space Raptor, did you feel like your position was misrepresented right out of the gate?
Hold on, 1 second, guys. I think we're getting bogged down in the meta, right? So the better.
No, we're getting bogged down in the facts, okay, Ray? Hold on.
What I mean by the meta is we were talking about who strawman who, but there was a better claim on the table. You said that the claim that Kathleen made was fallacious or something like to that extent.
It's absurd.
It's absurd, right? So let's go through why it's absurd.
Because it would require an absurd amount of evidence to say that because that is my opinion of something, or that is my line of thinking, that means God. You have just jumped so many steps.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, JPdise. Do you believe that logic is absolute?
Oh, stop. I mean, what are you doing right now?
Just answer the question. Do you believe that the application of logic in reality is an absolute necessity for the foundation of knowledge?
Kathleen, I think that in our world...
Can you answer that?
Yes, there are almost no absolutes. So what are you even talking about?
I'm asking that I didn't ask you if there were many absolutes. I didn't ask you anything other than
close to zero as I can think of.
I'm gonna repeat my question.
Zero absolutes. Is that one of them?
I'm going to repeat my question. Do you think that logic is absolute in its application for the necessity of our being able to have knowledge?
That's not at all relevant to this whole conversation.
It is absolutely relevant to every single part of this conversation, because if you do not admit that logic is absolutely necessary and that logic presupposes its necessity in order to be valid and absolute, then you cannot claim that you have access to any justified true knowledge.
I mean, those are all words, but they literally don't convey really much of a substantial meaning when you put them in that order.
JPdise, I think what I heard earlier was that you said that the claim that Kathleen made was that you needed, there's prerequisites for you to make these claims, right, about knowledge, about logic, right? And you said that was absurd, right? But Kathleen's going to...
No, not that there was. Again, hold on, Ray. No, not that there was.
Interrupting Ray.
Not that there was. Hold on, because you guys.
You need to stop interrupting people in the middle of their sentences. If you want to make a retort, you need to wait until someone is done speaking before you make your rebuttal.
Okay, then you guys need to understand that you don't get to offer a straw man position. You can't.
JP, let Ray finish his point, and then you can respond to him.
And you just interrupted JP. You just
it's like literally just did.
Let's not get bogged down in the meta, right, about who strawman who, because I don't think there was a strawman one. I mean, I think we went back to, like, remember there was the claim that Kathleen made about you needed the belief in God to facilitate logic, right? And you said that was absurd.
That's absurd.
You haven't really gone into why it's absurd, and I think Kathleen's willing to work with you that. Let's just not worry about this meta about who strawman who or what, because it's detracting from you actually getting.
So again, you're asking me why do I think that's absurd? Because you're moving from me having an opinion or thinking something directly to that is evidence of God. You have literally jumped so many chains of logic to get to that position. You better provide some evidence in between there. And if you can't, then you're making a completely fallacious argument.
All I just heard was you make a bunch of claims without answering the question.
What claims have I made?
Tell me why what I said is absurd.
Don't literally
make a claim about what is said. Telling me that I'm jumping steps. What steps am I jumping? You claim that you have some form of knowledge. What do you account that knowledge in? Where is your base for that knowledge? The
experience in life. I mean, I only have what I think is my reality. I hope that reality conforms to a shared reality that the rest of the human beings are going through. And I have my experience in life, and some things have proved reliable as pathways to determining truth about that reality, and some ways have not. I mean, that's the best that I can argue. You listen, I mean, I could make the argument that everything is a simulation, and it was literally started 7 seconds ago, where you were initiated with every single memory that you ever had and whatever. And how would you defeat that argument? Like, you can't. But it does us no good to reduce it down to that type of absurdity. Okay, so
again, I'm going to ask a question, because basically everything you just said, the only thing that you said was you have no functional epistemology. That's all you said. In that entire sentence, the only thing you said was, I have no functional epistemology. And so because you have no functional epistemology, your understanding of knowledge is completely incoherent. So you cannot make any claims about whether something is probable, improbable, true, false, whatsoever, because you have no ultimacy in which to ground knowledge in. So I will ask you again, what is your ultimacy? Is logic absolute? Do you have a base by which you can ground knowledge in that will lead you to believe that you have a justified true belief?
I mean, I don't know how many times you want me to continue to repeat myself. I have never made a claim that there is any type of absolute truth. I've tried to explain how the position...
Well, then you have no access to knowledge.
Okay, you're right. I have no access to... Okay, so that is a claim, sir. Provide your evidence for it.
Knowledge must be grounded in some kind of objective base.
So provide the evidence that I don't have the base. You made a claim that I can't have knowledge, so provide your evidence that I can't have whatever you want to define it by. Give me your evidence.
Okay. Listen to me, JP. If you interrupt me one more time, this conversation between me and you, at least, is over, because all you're doing now is being a troll. I'm pulling out darkened soundboard perfectly right there, by the way.
Well, give him a chance, Kathleen. He may not be used to this line of argumentation, so it might be frustrating him somewhat, and that's understandable.
Well, I have no problem. Right, I have no problem giving a chance.
Area, so there might be he obviously is encountering things he hasn't. So just be a bit more charitable with his lack of understanding on this topic, and maybe he'll. Is that okay, JP and Kathleen?
Yeah, my only issue is his constant interrupting. That's my only issue.
He's getting frustrated because he's encountering something maybe for the first time and he's not comfortable with it, right? So.
JP.
But I think you should see this through.
JP, do you have any understanding of what epistemology is?
I've heard the word a handful of times. I can certainly Google it.
Well, it's the study of knowledge. It's mankind's philosophical attempt to understand what we know to be true. It's how we try to figure out if the beliefs that we have are justified. And when I mean justified, that we can know them to be true. Knowledge starts from epistemology. And epistemology starts from a functional ontology, which is the study of reality. So when you say, I know something, you are making a knowledge claim. So when we say, how do you know that? We are asking you, what in your worldview would lead you to believe that you have a justification for claiming this knowledge to be true? So when I say...
You're getting a little long-winded. Give me a chance to respond. Man, you're throwing a lot at me.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Just say pause and I'll stop. There you go.
Okay. So essentially, the way I gather from how you've explained it is you are talking about the field of psychology, about,
No.
No,
we're talking about philosophy, not psychology.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Philosophy. Excuse me. Philosophy. So, philosophy, in my opinion, and correct me if I've got something wrong, is something that is quite subjective. I don't know that philosophy produces objective results about the claims that it makes, right? So people can have different interpretations across the board, but when we search for things like philosophy, and don't take any offense to this, but I'm going to offer another one, something like faith, right? These things are not good pathways of determining objective truths about our reality. So I don't.
Look, is the whole room nauseated right now? You utilize tools in philosophy to find those, like a priori or a posteriori evidence, for example, right? Objective things are not just found to be true or found to be highly probable just by things that fit the test tube. There's not just empirical data.
Science is justified purely on the philosophical basis.
Wait. Yeah, what do you mean purely on? That's a big stretch.
JP, do you think that that truth is subjective?
Philosophy is the foundation.
I think that our understanding
the process of science and the history of science, and they'll tell you science is a bitch to philosophy, fully and completely.
You cannot have science without philosophy. Which is why, for a very long time now, remember, who came up with the scientific method? The Catholic Church. What was the Catholic Church's scientific understanding based on? Aristotle's natural philosophy.
Oh, listen.
Philosophy.
If your argument is that because one thing predates another, therefore it is more important.
That's not the argument.
Well, then provide
the argument.
Then provide a better argument.
Hold on. Stop getting aggravated. Listen to what I just said. Listen to what I just said. The scientific method, which you claim to hold above everything else.
No, I did not claim to hold.
Wait a second. Again, you've got... Stop interrupting. The scientific method is a creation of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church created the scientific method in order to understand reality. The scientific method was built on Aristotle's natural philosophy. You cannot have science without philosophy. Philosophy comes first. It is prime to any endeavor into the study of reality or the study of knowledge.
Yeah, science just gets us closer to God.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. But again, you're literally making the argument that because philosophy existed before the scientific method.
No.
So who's the one that interrupts? Who's the one that interrupts?
No.
Kathleen, let him finish.
Unfucking believable.
He's got a point, Kathleen. You interrupted him.
Get on with it, dude, please.
I apologize.
All right. So again, I want you to just kind of hear me out. I mean, the argument that because the scientific method existed after this idea of philosophy, and that without philosophy before it, we never would have had science and figured out the scientific method. I mean, I'll almost give you to that without saying, well, show me some evidence that you cannot have science, the scientific method, without philosophy. But let's assume that I'm on board with that. Just because, and hear me out here, just because one predates the other does not mean that the one that became earlier is a better pathway to understanding the truths about our reality. The fact
makes you think that?
Because
hold on. That's not what I said, though.
Okay,
That's
but hear me out.
What
I know.
said. I've heard.
Obviously, you didn't say that. Obviously, you didn't say that. Obviously, you didn't say that. The only argument that I have really made, and the only claim, if you will, that I have really made, is that the scientific method, as far as any way I can tell, is the absolute best. Oh, geez, I shouldn't have used the word absolute. Is the best way for us, the pathway to truth about our reality. And that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if philosophy came before it.
Let me ask you a question.
Hold on.
All right. And let me make a statement.
I really want to point something out before we get up from the weeds, because he said something really important. If we don't address that, Kathleen, we're going to be in trouble. No.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm going to be right back. I got to step away for just about 2 minutes.
Whatever. JP, nobody said, argued against you that science is a good method of knowing truth because you said that science is the best way of knowing truth. You said, contrary, not this just science is good, you said that philosophy is bad. And what we brought up, is that, hold on just 1 second.
I did not say philosophy is bad, though, Seth. That's not fair. No, I did not. The words never came out of my mouth.
God damn it, shut the fuck up. That's not the words you said, but hold on. But that's the consequence of what you said. It's just a glib way of saying what you said, right? That philosophy is shit compared to science, right?
Space. Is that how you interpreted what I said, Space?
No.
Okay, so listen, guys, you gotta relax and calm down.
But everyone else in the room heard you say, in consequence, that philosophy is shit compared to science, and that's just bonkers. For anyone who knows about the philosophy of science, which is wholly supported by philosophy and not science. It couldn't be, right? Because it's science.
I didn't hear him say that.
You're literally First of all, you literally turned around and did the exact same thing, but reversed the roles and it's just science. Come on, bro.
JP.
I didn't say
science. What is?
Oh my God.
What would you, JP? What would you say is required to have science?
A universe. That's a good start. Like something that exists. That's a good start. Yeah.
Can I butt in for a second?
No.
Yeah, please.
Hold on. No. Wait a second. When I ask you what is required to have science, I mean what is required for you to conduct science. What is required for you to conduct science is knowledge of the world around you. You must have knowledge of something in order to do something.
Pause. That is absolutely not true. I mean, I can conduct science by walking outside my front door and examining different plants and writing down.
And what is required for you to examine anything? What is required for the application of examination? Knowledge of how to examine something. Sensory input without the ability to reflect on sensory input is meaningless.
Oh gosh, I mean, you just take things so deep into the metaphysical, like it's really a bore talking.
Of course I do, because I am trying to get you to understand that your mile-wide and inch-deep understanding of these things, when you make these claims and you ask for these things, you don't understand what you're saying or asking. And I am I am probably the person in here that knows the least about these things, and even I understand that you can't comprehend what you're saying because I'm asking you extremely basic questions and you can't comprehend them. When you say science,
if you're asking me questions about the metaphysical, then okay, first let me clarify that definition. Is it fair to say that by metaphysical you mean things that exist outside of our universe, outside of our testable reality?
It's metaphysics is just a study of first principles.
Just answer the question. Why is this so difficult? Is that a fair Is that a fair definition or not?
I don't think anyone in this room besides you would have an issue with what I just said.
No, well, please, for me, since apparently I'm some ignorant heathen, help me understand. Is my understanding acceptable that metaphysical might refer to anything that exists out?
Metaphysics, when we say metaphysics, is the study of first principles. First principles being concepts or assumptions on which a theory of a system is built.
Let me just interject really quick. Okay, I just want to say, JP, science is a branch of philosophy. It is.
So when
what other branches come off from philosophy from science?
From science?
I'm sorry. No, what other branches besides science come off from philosophy?
Epistemology, ontology, metaphysics, and science.
There's philosophy of religion, philosophy of language. Pick your poison.
They're basically big four, right? We can take metaphysics, value theory, so like ethics. Then we can take epistemology, and
everything anyone can get a PhD.
And then logic, right? Those are the four.
Oh, thank God, Danny's here. Fuck, Danny.
And logic. Okay, so if those are the four branches, then where did science come into that? Which branch is it?
Well, the thing is that we can consider philosophy to kind of be a second order of thought as it applied to other subjects, right? So there's science, there's history, and then there's philosophy of those things, right? That act as a kind of foundation for how we.
Can I butt in to make a suggestion? Of course, Look, JP, look, you might want to do something over the weekend. Like, read up on Karl Popper and his work. If you think you'd really like it, I think it'd open your eyes quite a bit.
Yes, that's exactly who I was going to mention. Karl Popper. He is like the grandfather of current scientific philosophy. Like, well, not the grandfather.
Again, but let me offer this, and again, help me if I'm wrong. My understanding is all of those things that you've mentioned are all completely subjective things that are open to interpretation.
Now, what do you mean by subjective?
By subjective, okay, so that's a strong question, and I don't want to simplify it too much. But by subjective, I mean something that might be open to interpretation to find a position, and each person would be equally credible in holding that position, versus something that is objective, where you have a measurable, testable.
So it seems like what you're saying is that any philosophical claim, right? The truth value is going to be relative to the subject. Is that what you just said?
No, what I'm saying is that when you talk about things like philosophy and you talk about things like religion, all of these things are very much open to interpretation. And I don't know that we can.
But listen what you just said.
Listen, let me finish.
Give an example, right, and see if it's open to interpretation on his half, right, to do with logic.
So right. So like here's an example, right? If George V reigned for 4 days, then he reigned for more than 3 days, right? That's a philosophical statement. It's a priori, right? There's no experience that led us to that inference, right? We can just develop it from reason alone, right? That's a philosophical inference. It's logic, right?
Well, I mean, that's
so we wouldn't say. Wait,
Danny, I'm sorry. Can I offer that's nothing more than building off the simple logic that one, if A equals B, then B equals A. I mean, you can literally start at a binary.
You realize that's a philosophical notion, right? Logic.
Right.
Okay.
No. It's It's much more than.
Yes.
No, listen. I have. Hey,
listen. You're claiming.
No.
Wait.
I'm gonna have to talk over you.
Logic and its rules.
I actually have a degree in philosophy, so there's something here that you're not understanding, right? And I've definitely heard it. You're not the only one out there that thinks that when you step into a philosophy classroom, that everything that the professor says is just simply a matter of opinion or subjective, right?
Again, Danny, don't. No, I never said everything. Okay.
Well, didn't you say philosophy is objective? Doesn't that imply that?
I said it is subjective.
Right.
I said it's subjective and completely open to people's interpretation.
Do you know what a synonym for subjective is? A matter of opinion, not a matter of fact.
Right. And if you want to say
that's a misconception.
Okay, well, listen. So then the only thing you can do is then define more specifics about philosophy. You can say, well, what about the historicity of philosophy? What about these people and did they exist? Sure, you can define it more, but philosophy as a
yeah, they want to tell you all that.
Wait,
hold on. Yeah, hold on, JP. Let me ask you a question. Is saying all bachelors are men a matter of opinion or a matter of fact?
It's neither. Like, what are you even talking about? It's completely.
You mean unmarried?
No. Hold on. No. Listen to what I'm saying. All bachelors are men. Is that a matter of fact or a matter of opinion?
Okay, so listen, what I'm telling you is it's nothing more than a statement you're making. We could certainly collect evidence and find out if that was the case or not.
No, we don't need any evidence.
I mean,
hold on.
Okay,
Stop. Look, hold on, JP. Is the Earth is 4.54 billion years old a matter of opinion or a matter of fact?
Is the age of the Earth somewhere in roughly in like 4.5 billion years? I mean, that is the evidence that exists suggests that is our best understanding.
Is the age
That's
of
not what
the
he
Earth
asked. He asked if it is a matter of opinion.
No, well,
is the age of the Earth a matter of fact or a matter of opinion?
Just some statement, like you said about the definition of.
Is it left up to interpretation of just someone's opinion?
Can you interpret 4.5 billion differently? Perhaps, I don't know. But the statement that
sure, I can interpret that the evidence is wrong and the Earth is 10,000 years old, but that's irrelevant.
JP,
you are claiming something to be a matter of fact or a matter of evidence.
Science is objective and it's not relevant. It doesn't fall into these subjective fucking traps that philosophy always does. But Can I ask you an extremely simple scientific fact? I mean, nobody denies this very simple scientific fact that Earth is roughly 4.54 billion years old. So what the fuck's going on here?
There are many people that do not think that. I just separated from, a girlfriend not too long ago.
Wow.
Who I was with for 5 years, whose entire family believed in young Earth creationism and that the world is only 10,000 years old and that dinosaurs and humans were together.
Well, they're stupid. But JP, let me ask you something.
Okay, so wait, hold on. You mean to tell me that there are many of you out there that don't believe that? Like, you guys actually believe it's 4.5 billion?
Settle down.
Do you actually believe
it? JP. Settle down.
This is good news.
Settle down. I need to ask you a very specific question.
Send it.
All right. When I say the word bachelor, what does that entail? Is there a specific definition of the word bachelor?
Well, I mean, I can give you Merriam-Webster or something if you want. Should I look it up?
Can you not? Do you have you never heard the word bachelor before?
I mean, I've heard the word
that what somebody means by bachelor is an unmarried man.
Okay, but listen.
Okay.
You guys, you're talking about linguistics and the way we use our language.
Yes, JP, listen to me. Language is important. Okay. The definition of a bachelor is an unwed single male. That is the definition of the word bachelor. It is a description of a single unwed male. So when we ask the logical question, are all bachelors men? The answer is yes, and that is a matter of fact. And that is a philosophical norm.
Okay, well, listen, I don't want to offend anybody. I was trying to avoid the pitfalls of, male, female, identify, whatever. If I'm, in all fairness, Catherine, your voice sounds like a man. I thought I'd been talking to a man.
Look, I don't care, dude. I'm a tranny, and I don't care. That's irrelevant to this conversation.
Well, so I was trying to avoid the pitfall of trying to identify a male is a bachelor.
You're not. Well, this is modus ponens, and this is modus ponens. No one really cares.
All right, fine. Then I'm okay with your statement. All right. I was just trying to. I didn't want to step on anybody's toes and say something that I was going to regret. So
the point that they're trying to get to is the definition of what it means for something to be an analytically true statement. It means it's true by definition. not somebody's opinion or whatever. It's defined. The way that the words are defined makes the statement true.
Okay.
That's all that they're trying to convey to you. So when somebody is a bachelor, you can be assured that whenever somebody's talking about a bachelor, it's always going to be a man. It's always going to be somebody who's unmarried.
And this is less up to opinion than any scientific fact. This is a necessary fact. It's true. It's not only true here in the real world, it's true in every possible world.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's alter that. Okay, what does a bachelor mean in China? Huh? What does a bachelor mean in Japan?
The same thing.
No, in their language. In their language.
It means the same thing. It means the same thing.
This is terrible.
Bachelor, the word bachelor, let me explain this to you in a way you will comprehend. The word bachelor will mean a single unmarried man anywhere on Earth, anywhere on Mars, anywhere on Alpha Centauri, anywhere in the multiverse. The word bachelor will mean the exact same thing. It is an absolutely true statement.
Not all languages have the same.
In English, all right. Listen, there's going to be some tribe. There's going to be some tribe in Africa that doesn't even have a word defined as bachelor.
I can't. I just. Ray, I tried. I really did, Ray, but I just can't anymore.
Yeah, you better not. You guys are a joke. Seriously.
More universal example to this guy, like maybe.
Oh my goodness. How about we get to the point at hand?
Okay, here's a better one. Here's a better one. Okay. Is a sun a star?
Our sun is a star.
Is there any sun that is not a star?
By the definition that we have defined a sun, no, a sun is a star. No, our star is a sun, but all of the other stars are not suns.
Dude, just stop. Every sun in the universe is a star.
No.
Every star in the universe is a sun.
Nope. Sun refers.
I tried one more time.
Stop.
You guys.
Stop. Sun is the name of our star. Sun is the name of our star. Every other star out there has a different name. We call them many different.
All right.
Well, the sun and our sun. Well, sorry, are referring to the same.
There's only one sun, and that's our sun. All of the other stars, we have named different things.
Spitzberging for a second.
Okay, listen.
So, a sun doesn't have to refer to our sun or the sun. A sun means the same thing as a star. If you go to look at the definition of sun, you'll see that it starts with a star. And if you go to look at the definition of star, it sounds exactly like how we would describe the sun.
Okay, so I don't care what it sounds like. There's not a scientist in the world, not a scientist in the world who would call any other star the sun except for the one that is
towering
in the solar system.
JP, listen to me. Here's the issue, right? Is that you have come into a chat room with a bunch of people. I'm not talking about me, but you have come into a chat room with a bunch of people who are immensely more intelligent than you, and you are trying to assert your positions that are just wrong. The best thing for you to do right now is just lay down your sword and listen to what these people have to tell you, because if you did that, if you would just drop your ego and your arrogance and your pride, you might actually learn something.
So here's what's happened is I've landed on a server of people who claim to be woke, that have a higher understanding than all these other people. But is there anybody who knows anything about physics, about biology, about chemistry, about geology?
You can't have physics. Hold on, JP. You can't have physics or biology or chemistry or any of those things without philosophy.
That's not. Look, that's
just a shit argument. That's a shit argument. You guys are terrible. You guys are bums.
That's
quite
not
frankly.
That's not relevant. Look, no one in here has to have a degree in.
No. Listen. Don't
listen. You've been. Thank you. Whoever did that. I don't know if someone muted it, but no one has to have a degree in physics to be smart. And we're not saying that you have to have a degree in philosophy to be smart. All we're saying, all I think Kathleen is trying to tell you is that this is sort of like our area in here, right? This is what we do from day to day. Like, we discuss these issues, and you were dead wrong on multiple points. Absolutely wrong.
Okay.
Also,
so
Kathleen, you're being extremely condescending when you say, "Oh, you're not very smart." Like, just leave that out. Like, if you want to correct him on a point, if you want to correct him on a point, do so. But insulting his intelligence, that just doesn't
look.
fly.
Look, that's not. Look, that's not going to work in here, right? Like, you don't come in here and tell Kathleen or somebody else how they need to argue. That's just not going to work in here, buddy.
No, she's throwing out insults.
No, look, what Kathleen said what Kathleen said was, he was talking about the room and the conglomeration of people in here that are much smarter than your buddy here who's talking, and that he didn't include himself in that. That's all he said.
Okay.
What are you even talking about?
The issue, like, listen, Space. I've been with these people for a while, right?
Oh,
and
listen.
There's two things that I can claim categorically about the people, right? Is that one, they enjoy this, and two, they are immensely good at it, right? Now, I have had a lot of arguments with a lot of people in here, and they have made me look like a fool before. And the reason they have made me look like a fool is because of the stances that your buddy is taking right now. It wasn't until I stopped and started listening that I started to get a little bit of knowledge about these things.
Can someone please mute Catherine? This is too much. Seriously,
no,
I don't want to
mute
deal
me
with
in here,
this.
mate.
I want to talk to someone who wants to have a rational conversation.
I tried to have a rational conversation with you, and you refused to have it.
Okay, but you're not capable of doing it right now. You're not capable of doing it right now.
JP,
I am more than capable of doing it.
Oh, jeez.
JP, are you more into? So obviously, I take it you're quite anti-theist, right? Or young Earth creationist stuff like that. So you're into more evidential.
Wait. What? Okay. I am not anti-theist, and I am not young Earth creationist.
Listen, you're getting caught up on the labels, right? You mentioned your ex-girlfriend thought the world was 10,000 years old, and you scoffed at that or whatever. You said there's a large contingent, whatever. But I'm saying, so you're more into the evidential arguments, right?
I'm into evidence, yes.
Right.
I'm into good evidence. So send it.
You don't know what the fuck evidence is.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
you don't even have a definition of evidence.
Oh,
Because you don't have a definition of knowledge. Without a definition of knowledge, you can't have any evidence.
All right.
Oh my god.
Yeah, see, there you go. You're just insulting. That's all you're doing.
Kathleen, let's tag someone else in.
That's insane.
Danny.
Layla wants Danny to go. Layla wants Danny to go in.
I guess I don't understand, outside of hurling a bunch of insults and stuff like that. Like, what,
okay, here, we'll just
where
Let's just
wait, hold on. Where's the honest debate? What are people trying to discuss?
What are you in here to debate about?
I
mentioned physics and biology.
No. I frankly popped in. I popped in because I saw this link on Reddit, and I had my mic muted and sat there and listened to a little bit of banter back and forth in regard to religion, which was something that I was open to discuss this evening. And time again, I heard someone
I don't really care about the past. What do you want to discuss about religion?
Well, I'd like to know if anybody can present any reasonable evidence why I should believe in a God.
Do you think that you don't think there's any evidence for God?
I have not seen any credible evidence for God.
What do you mean see?
I don't know that anybody, as far as I'm aware, again, in the shared reality that I think I have, I don't think anybody else is aware or has seen, has credible evidence for a God existing.
Okay, so
hey guys, did you see that Bacon is actually alive?
Kathleen, I'm just gonna have to just tag out.
Okay, so there's no evidence for God.
Photoshop.
This is what you're saying, right? You haven't encountered any evidence for God.
Yeah, I'm saying it appears there has yet to be presented evidence. I'm not saying that there is none. I'm saying that it appears, as of yet, we have not discovered any reasonable evidence to conclude that God exists.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Why do you think there's anything at all? Why do you think there's physical matter, material?
Well, so I guess in life, I don't really concern myself with the why questions. I guess I'm more concerned with the how, you know? And up to now,
Well, then how do you think the universe how do you think the universe became to be, or became? How did it become?
I mean, the best explanation to this point is what you guys obviously all have heard called the Big Bang Theory, and that was
So you think the universe began?
I think space and time, you know, listen, if the argument that you're going to try and corner me into is that because something had a beginning, it had to have a creator, you're just, that's a fallacious argument.
I wouldn't say that, but do you think it would have a cause?
Or even a cause. That's a fallacious argument. No.
Why is
Because how are we to know about anything that exists outside of our universe? That's absurd.
You don't think something non-physical can exist?
How would we even know that it did? There's no way possible that you could ever find out unless it interacted with our universe. You would
never.
A
claim, right? You just made a claim.
Yes.
So you made the claim that there can't be things that are non-physical that exist. And I want to know your argument.
No. I said my claim was that if there is something that exists outside of our universe, there is no way we can ever possibly have evidence to understand that it exists unless it interacts with our universe in some way, shape, or form that we can detect. If something exists outside...
Wouldn't the cause of the universe interact with the universe insofar as it started it? It began it?
If that was the case, if something external did that, then we would have evidence for it. That's what I'm saying, is if it was something that existed outside of our universe, then there would be evidence when it interacted with our universe in some way, shape, or form. And
look, here's what I'm saying, right? If you're saying that, you mentioned the Big Bang, if you're saying that things, or that the universe began to exist, right? And then you're saying yourself, you're invoking science. I've heard you talk about your expertise in physics and biology and such. You know that.
No, I have not said expertise. Nice.
Or I don't mean it in a professional
sense.
sense.
You guys are unbelievable.
I don't mean it in a professional sense, but the idea is that you want to talk. About a bit about physics and biology and science. You know that for where you see an effect, you typically see a cause, right? So you can make
no, that is absolutely not true.
So can you point to an effect where there's no cause?
It's not. You can't see. All you're doing is shifting the burden of proof. You're making a claim and then saying, "Okay, now you prove."
Right? Did you not make the claim?
You just ran off at the mouth and then said, "Well, can you show evidence?" No, you don't. You don't get to make a thing and then make me prove something that you said is wrong. Like, what are you talking about? My claim was my claim was very clear. It was that if there's something that exists outside,
buddy, John. Oh, sorry. Danny said something very simple. He said, "Wherever you have an effect, you're going to have a cause, right?" Then you're no, you don't accept that, right? So Danny's just like, okay, fine. Show us a counterexample. Show us a case where there is an effect with no cause. If you deny the premise Danny's proposing, you're going to have to show a counterexample.
No, you don't have to show a counterexample. Okay, so okay, in all fairness, if someone says to you guys, I don't even know, do we have flat earthers in here, or does everybody generally accept that the earth is a globe, right?
Server. This is big boy server, okay? You have to get used to it. Here's what I said, okay? I said there was, for every effect that I observed, could be a cause too, right? And that's an inductive claim. I'm not making an logical entailment here, right? So I'm saying that if something was caused, right? That's to say the effect. It's an effect, right? It's reasonable to think that it had a cause.
I would say that it's reasonable to think it, but it's not a guarantee.
Well, that's not interesting to say. Remember, I just said it was an inductive claim. I'm not saying that it's an entailment, right? Guaranteeing whether there's guaranteed or absolute certainty, that's not relevant, right?
Okay. Can I interject real quick, Danny? I think,
of course,
I think you got him.
You think you got him? You guys are funny.
well, are you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that you don't think that there's any evidence for God, right?
I said, as of yet, I'm not aware of anybody that's presented credible evidence why anyone should believe that there's a God or something that exists, outside of our universe.
Mm-hmm. And do you accept inductive inferences as evidence?
go ahead and proceed, and I'll let you know if what you're offering is evidence. I'll accept, and if I don't accept it, I'll tell you why.
That's a very basic question.
Do you know what inductive inference is?
Look, dude, when you perform an experiment and you get a certain result, you perform the experiment again, do you accept that as evidence that the hypothesis is correct?
It depends. I don't think. Okay.
Well, look, how many times have you observed the sun come up? Don't you think that's evidence that the sun is going to come up tomorrow?
I think it is good evidence to reasonably suspect that the next day the sun should rise just as it has before.
Right. So you accept.
But it's no guarantee. But it's no guarantee.
Right. But it's evidence, right? It's evidence.
It is good evidence, I believe. Yes.
Right. So have you ever seen something without a cause?
That's not even a good argument.
Look, you can just say
it's not an argument. It's a question.
No, but it doesn't matter.
I can't. It's not the argument itself.
Look, I think it's really funny that this guy has such an admiration for the scientific method, but then denies induction.
You want to hear the argument?
I didn't deny induction. I'm saying that it's not absolute. I'm fine with induction.
Well, evidence isn't absolute.
I went over
one person talk.
Interesting. We're not making a logical entailment. We're not talking. We're not discussing certainty or absoluteness of our proposition or claim. Right. We're just saying that it's more likely the case that this is right. That this is true. Right. Which is not.
Okay. Fair enough.
Talking about guarantee at all.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Everything that we've observed, which had an effect, had a cause. Do you agree?
Okay, for the sake of argument, yes. Yes.
Right. So don't you think that's evidence for God?
No, not at all. That's just ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Can I say something real quick? I think JP is inexperienced with a lot of the terminology, even some of the concepts. And so when you go Socratic method on him, he's like, it's like you're trying to lead a blind person through a room. JP, I think you're a pretty smart guy, but I think you have some philosophical concepts to learn. And until he does that, you guys you're going to get him waffling, and you're going to get him waffling on answers. Okay.
Well, okay. So again, in all fairness, I didn't know this was a philosophy chat room. I saw it on someone debating. The Reddit link that I clicked was debating atheism versus religion.
Fucking complex, guys.
Okay, regardless whether they're complex or not, do you guys want to talk about physics? Do you want to talk about chemistry and biology and mathematics and things like that? Okay, well listen, everybody in life has different passions and is knowledgeable about other things. I do not. No. I'm done. As a matter of fact, I'm done talking to you guys because. Frankly, you are a toxic community. I don't know what is going on.
I've been cordial with you the entire time I've been here.
I'm not saying all of you, but you've allowed people to absolutely treat me with total disrespect and to shit on me the entire time. Listen, no.
Let's not have a pussy powwow, all right? I mean,
no. Pussy powwow.
Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. JP, do you think that Reddit community is respectful?
About respect. It's like I came here to have an honest, open discussion about atheism versus theism.
You don't care about respect, or you're just complaining about people being disrespectful.
JP, is it toxic to treat people who are terrible terribly?
That's too philosophical.
When you start calling people retards.
Whoever made it? Who
called a retard? I didn't call anybody a retard.
No. Kathleen did. Kathleen called you a retard.
Yeah, I realize I curse. I try to keep that, to a minimum when I'm speaking with other people.
You're a rebel.
Unbelievable. You guys.
But that's one person, right? So don't let that.
Look, JP.
Don't let that mar your opinion too much of the entire.
I don't know why you kept getting around this really simple point, Kathleen. Try to point out. Look, this is all that was trying to be pointed out to you, and I don't know why it's so difficult, right? There are pre-criteria for science, right? There are things that justify science, right? Science is good. We all agree. Nobody in here would say that science is bad. We all like science, right?
Okay.
We think that science is good for certain reasons, right? Those reasons predate science. Those are epistemologically prior to science. We like science because it's repeatable, testable, and it seems to be reliable. And those things aren't good because science says so. Those things are good for some other reason, right? They can't be good because science says so, because they come before science, right? That's all we're saying. And then Kathleen might go on, and other people who believe in God, I'm an atheist, by the way, might go on to say that, look, the reasons to believe in God might also be pre-scientific in the same way, right? There might be good reasons to believe in God, the same reason there are good reasons to believe in science without science.
Okay, and again, that just brings me back to a very simple point, that the only thing that can provide an objective truth about the reality we live in is something that is testable and measurable and can influence, we can determine the influence in our universe.
Let's take that statement.
Okay.
Let's take that statement right there. Let's take that statement right there.
Send
right.
it.
I want you. Do you think that's true? Do you think what you just said is true?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to test it.
What do you mean?
You just said, right, that the only way we arrive at objectivity, right, the fact to arrive at what is true, okay.
No, I said the only way we can find objective truths about the reality we live in.
Right. That's to say the only way to find objective truth is to test it. And you just said something that you believe to be true. So if it follows, right, if that follows, then we're going to be able to test what you just said. So I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, the test is, okay. So the test is the scientific method. We have never discovered something outside of the realm of our universe, like I just explained.
You're saying that all of our truths are based in a kind of procedural, testable manner, or arrived that way?
All of the observable truths about our universe are revealed via the scientific method.
So when I say Donald Trump, right, has been president for 2 years, and then I make the inference that he's been president for at least 1 year, right? Did I make that inference by through an experimentation or some sort of testable methodology?
No, you understood that the number 1 is smaller than the number 2.
Right. So do you see that's a truth that's not based in the lab or a kind of testable experience. So what you're saying is false.
That's because you define lab by some experiment that you're doing. It was at one point many thousand years ago when the system of numerals was created that we use today, the decimal system, right, or the Arabic numerals. It was at one time tested in a lab where they had to figure it out and figure out how this 10-base system worked. Okay.
Wait, no. You realize when I say, now I agree with you that Donald Trump has been president for 2 years is an empirical one. We could test for that. We could use a historical
We certainly
method,
could.
right? But the idea is that there's an inference that can be made from that premise, right? That if it is the case that Donald Trump has been president for 2 years, then
yes,
it's also the case
that he has been president for 1 year.
It's been a president for at least 1 year.
Sure.
The inference that follows from that premise has not been a result of any kind of testable procedure like you're describing, right? So it's true. So what you said about the only way to arrive at objective truth is through a testable measure, right? If you're saying that's the only way, I've actually just provided an example in which we have a true inference, a true proposition, without doing any sort of empirical test.
Right, and let me return then. If it starts with that the 2 years is true, then you gain absolutely no knowledge by knowing that the 1 year is true. It doesn't reveal anything more about reality. It's a moot point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You gain no more knowledge about the scenario if you know it's 2 years, and now through inference it's 1. That teaches you nothing else about the universe.
I'll try to say it differently. That way, maybe you might understand. Hey guys, there are 2 propositions here, right? There's the proposition. There's the proposition that Trump is president, has been president for 2 years, right? That's one proposition. Okay, and there's a second proposition that Trump has been president for at least 1 year, right?
Okay.
Now,
so you would test both of those claims independently to verify their truth.
Now, but listen to this. Do you think we could establish the second proposition being true without testing it That's to say we could rely on the first proposition.
Then you could also believe in the first. And what information did you gain about reality by doing that?
Danny, all bachelors are unmarried.
I mean, yeah, but he wants to. He doesn't. This guy doesn't understand that words have usages and not meanings, right? And I don't want to get into that.
Oh,
but because
okay,
you feel to shine. So, but the idea here is that the second proposition we can find to be true based on the first. Now, as far as the utility, you're pointing to utility, right? You're saying that's not useful, right?
It doesn't. It does serve no purpose,
right? It does. I agree with you there. Okay, we can agree there. But the utility of the proposition is irrelevant as to its truth value. And your statement about we can only arrive at objective truths, right? True propositions through testable means, right? It doesn't take into account the utility of the true proposition that you've arrived to. We can perform an experiment, right? As to, how many bubbles I can blow with a piece of bubble gum, right? And that might not serve any utility, right? But it's still true, right? So utility or pragmatism is not relevant to the conversation when this kind of conversation regarding how can we establish something to be true.
Okay.
So I hope you understand and modify phrasing or your belief that everything that we've come to as being true, right, is just a result of a testable means. And I just don't agree with that. I think you don't even agree with that. It's a common mistake, though.
No. Every observable truth. Again, you guys really like to straw man. The only claim that I ever made was that there cannot be anything outside of our universe that we couldn't understand. Like, if it can't interact with our universe and it can't change the way we perceive our universe through testable means, through the scientific method, then it's completely irrelevant. Like, we will never know. There can never be a truth about that. That is all I said. And you guys start diving down on these rabbit holes.
In our previous conversation about the Big Bang and the big causes and effects, right? But that's not what you said a few minutes ago. You made the claim that you can only arrive at objectivity through a testable scientific method, right? And that's what I'm contending, right?
Okay.
Now,
well,
I could actually
frankly, I will. If that's what I said, then that was certainly a little misspoken. But frankly, you guys have misrepresented what I've said so much that I'm not sure if that is actually what I might have said. But continue, please.
We'll continue. I mean, you just conceded that whether you misspoke, right?
I didn't concede anything. I didn't. No, I didn't.
I thought you just said that you misspoke.
I'm saying that the quote that you offered would have been a little bit misspoken. But frankly, at this point, you guys have strongman me so much that I don't know if it's true that is actually the quote that I offered.
Appealing to past experiences to weasel your way out of getting destroyed here, right?
What?
Like I said at the very beginning, I don't care about the past, what happened with Kathleen and others. Yeah, they may have been really bitchy, but you just got to get over it. I'm talking with you. You deal with me right now. Okay? So do you concede that there are truths that we can arrive at that are not through empirical, testable methods?
So are you saying that it's not an objective truth that if Trump has been president for 2 years, that he has also been president for 1 year?
I'm saying, this is what I'm saying.
Okay, so if you're saying anything other than that, then you're completely misrepresenting my position.
No, I think you can. Maybe could you go ahead and repeat what you said?
Yes. Are you saying that both of those propositions, that he is both been president for 2 years and also been president for 1 year, are not both objective truths about our reality?
They are both true.
Okay, so again, my only claim was that the only way that we can understand what exists is by to observe the objective truths of our reality. Correct? Is that?
Listen, okay. I think this is what I was trying to say about the Trump example. That the second proposition that Trump has been president for at least 1 year.
God, right? You guys just moved the field goal again. You moved the post again. You guys are jokes. Frankly, I'm done with this conversation. You all have a good evening. Okay, take care.
Yeah, run away now.
Run away. You guys
don't really know much.
Clowns.
You don't even know it.
One person. Why are you saying everybody here is a clown or whatever?
Just because
just talk to somebody else. Don't be if you're just afraid of like a big room of people, say it.
Well, there have been like 5 people trying to talk to him at once. So, I mean, I could understand why he would want to leave.
Yeah, Danny just talked to him by himself for like the last 5 to 10 minutes at least.
Well, I mean, over the course of, I don't know, the past hour, a bunch of people have been trying to butt in and talk to him all at once.
Okay.
I mean, if he's exhausted, if he can't handle it, then he probably does need to go. He's going for his own mental health.
What I want to know is there going to be anybody that puts forth an argument for God, or are we just going to debate philosophy?
Danny was in the
evidence
process
for
of doing
God
that.
was being presented, but he wasn't answering questions. He would just
He didn't get past the first premise.
Like when he was asked to answer a question, he just said that's not an argument. But that's like saying that Monday isn't the week. It's like you can't get to Sunday unless you get through Monday first. You know what I mean?
Okay.
What was being given to him was examples of evidence which makes it more likely that God exists. That was being presented to him. He had questions about why or how he could have asked at any time, but he seemed like he just wanted to deny being taken through the step by step. That's the only thing I noticed.
He was being given rapid fire questions. Like as soon as he answered, as soon as he finished something, he was asked another question.
What?
Were you not here for the past hour? Like.
No, he said, so what? What's your point?
Yeah, I mean, but what I want to know is anybody going to put forth an argument for the existence of God?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
Being asked multiple questions in a row.
It's fine, but what I wanted
so there's no problem. Next.
I want to know is anybody going to put forth an argument for the existence of God?
Danny was in the middle of it.
Okay,
we did
finish that argument?
He accepts induction, right? And we've never observed something that didn't have a cause, right?
Okay.
Okay, so that's evidence.
Yes, for
you know what evidence
for
is? Space Raptor, do you know what evidence is?
No, still nobody is answering my question. Is anybody going to put forth an argument for God?
You're asking this question over and over again is because you don't recognize what evidence is. So that's why I'm asking, do you know what evidence is? If you don't, I'll simply explain it to you.
See, now we're getting into a philosophical argument. We're not getting into like the existence of God.
If you ask for evidence, do you think that it's important to decide between you and the person you're discussing what it means for something to be evidence. Otherwise, there's just no point continuing.
If Danny's giving an evidential argument, you have to understand what evidence is.
Sure. What evidence does Danny have that God exists?
Dude, you can't get there yet. You need to know what evidence is.
Right. Well, what do you define as evidence?
Well, what do you define as the?
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
That's shifting. That's shifting the
conversation.
We want to go point by point.
I want to hear what the evidence is.
Well,
look, we can't discuss that until we agree on a definition of evidence.
Well, we can't discuss that until we agree on a definition of
It's just like, do bachelors exist? Show me a bachelor. Well, what does bachelor mean? Well, show me a bachelor. That's not the next step. The next step is what is a bachelor?
There's more ambiguity around the word evidence than there is a word around the.
Sure.
To treat them the same way, like they're both some mysterious term that we have to define. It's just dishonest.
What's his understanding of what evidence is? Like, what does he take evidence to be?
It's simple. Just tell us what you think evidence is.
Well, it depends on what kind of claim we're talking about.
Just tell us what you think evidence is.
Look, we're not talking about predication. We're talking about identity. What is evidence? Not what is the evidence.
Well, okay. You're getting into the philosophical part of it. I admit that I have a lot to learn about philosophy. You just interrupted me, and I can't finish my thought if you interrupt me. Okay? So I admit that I have a lot to learn about philosophy and logic. I have no problem admitting that, okay? But I hear people give evidence like, let's say, for instance,
look, the reason we cut you off is because we don't care about any of that. You're just getting into the meta.
So
we're
you
just
don't...
talking. No, listen. We're just trying to ask you what you think evidence is. We don't care if you've had prior experience with philosophy. Just tell us what you think evidence is.
Listen, you just said you've heard people give evidence. What is that? What are you talking about?
Well, generally speaking, and I'm not saying this is every case, but it's generally speaking something like for the claims that Christians make, like, say, a Catholic, they're talking about something that would probably have, well, no, I don't want to say that. Jesus. I mean, if they're going to say that there's, like, Yahweh, then I want to be able to see this deity.
You're already fucking completely distracted. Define evidence.
Here's how your answer is gonna. Let me give you a running start. Your answer is gonna be something like evidence is blank.
Probably.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
What a bad.
Well.
Little Redditor laughing.
Evidence is something that. Well,
it's generally physical in most real-world cases. Look, I know there are concepts. If you think that I'm
physical isn't going to factor into the definition of evidence.
Okay, what is your definition of evidence?
Just go ahead and tell me your definition, please.
What is your definition of evidence?
Yeah, something is evidence if it raises the probability of a hypothesis being true. Okay? Sound good?
Sure. That is.
Do you see how easy that was?
Yes. I told you I don't know that much about philosophy. So if we could just skip like the 10 questions and you could just make your points, please.
That's not. You keep listening, buddy. You keep using the word evidence, but you don't even understand what it is.
The problem is, Space Raptor, is you keep asking for arguments for God's existence, and when Danny's trying to present an evidentially based argument, you don't even know. You don't have the slightest fucking idea what evidence is.
Of course I don't. Look, when somebody says, like, I have water in a cup, I want to see that they have water in a cup. I mean, this is not rocket science. Like, that would be evidence for that proposition. That would be evidence for that proposition. Would you agree to that? But we're talking philosophy here. We're not really getting to the meat of the matter.
Now, I have a question. Do you think to validate the claim that God exists, it requires the kind of evidence that you would see in a chemistry lab, like scientific empirical evidence?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and walk me through the argument there.
Which argument? Like,
no, you just said yes. You made a claim there that saying that
evidence
that
for
the
God
idea of the existence of God, right, requires empirical scientific evidence, right? So I want to know why.
Why?
Yeah.
See, you're playing offense on my position. That's not really how it should go.
This is so fucking retarded. Every time we ask you a question, you just say, I'm not here to answer questions effectively. Listen, you said if there's going to be evidence for God,
go ahead. I'll extend an olive branch, right? I'll make the claim, okay, that I don't see any reason to think that believing that God exists, to be justified in that belief, requires empirical evidence.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
But now that's my claim. Now your claim, right, and then the one that you made first, right, is that you do require such evidence in order to justify the claim, and I want to know why.
Well, one, because some people just say a bunch of hearsay because they're liars, or because they're delusional, or they're mistaken, something like that, right? Like, that's why I want to see evidence. I'm not just going to take somebody's word for it that God exists.
Well, I wouldn't take somebody's word for it that God doesn't exist. I mean, this is not an argument for your position.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Oh fuck what?
He just completely neutralized everything you just said.
Oh, God, I just got destroyed, didn't I?
You really
My
did.
God.
You're just too dumb.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you guys are just going to insult, like, I'm not going to
Well, come on, get a thicker skin than that. Dude, I said what you said was neutral. I said, I really gonna like pitch a fit over that.
Are you gonna like put an argument?
No, Space Raptor.
Or
I'm actually, I extended an olive branch by making the claim. I'm making the claim that you don't require the kind of evidence that you think is required for the justification of the claim that God exists.
So, are you a theist?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like what flavor?
Are you going to answer my question?
Ask it again.
Right. So I'm asking, why is it that it's necessarily the case that the claim that God exists requires a sort of empirical evidence similar to the one that we find when we're verifying scientific truths?
Well, I mean, basically because a lot of what is written in the Bible comports with like the physical experiences that we experience with other people, like, you know, like Moses talked to God or something, right? Like I want to see that this actually happened.
Well, I'm not making the claim that God talked to Moses.
What would be evidence for you of a conversation from 2,000 years ago before the existence of tape recorders?
Well, yeah, I recognize that we can't, you know, we don't have any recordings of that. I'm just saying, in principle.
Would conversation be evidence for you?
Well, I mean, if it was an actual, you know, like not a, like let's say, I don't know.
If there were multiple documented accounts of somebody speaking to God.
I think this is a tangent, right? He's not concerned of whether the Bible is true or false. He's concerned as to whether God exists, right? And I can define God for you as a maximally great being, a being that is maximally powerful, maximally good, and knows all true propositions, right? Now, you're saying, right, that this kind of entity requires scientific evidence in order to justify that its existence. Right? Now, I just don't agree with that, right? And I gave you an olive branch by extending my own claim that such evidence is not required, right, to justify that sort of claim. But you're the one that made the initial claim, right, that you do need that kind of evidence. So I'm asking why, right? Whether the Bible is true, whether God spoke to Moses, whether Jesus resurrected, all these things are irrelevant to what I just discussed.
Okay. Like, so you have, I take it, some sort of formal argument for the existence of God?
Yeah, I have a couple arguments, but as soon as you admit that such kind of evidence is not required, or at least that you don't know.
That it's not required? I said that? No. That's
no, you haven't said that yet. You will in a second.
I will?
Oh, fuck.
Wait, what am I going to say in a second?
Fucking calling the shot.
What am I going to say in a second?
Either that you don't know how to support the claim that to justify the claim that God exists requires scientific evidence. Come on, this is like, I feel like this is the sixth time I've said this. Requires scientific evidence. Either you don't know how to justify it, or that it's not justifiable.
See, here's the thing. The belief in God came about long before people had these very complex philosophical, logical arguments. And so trying to put forth a logical argument for the existence of God, I just don't buy it.
Wait, so you said something like, I think, again, that's totally irrelevant as to how the belief came about. I don't know if you've ever heard of the genetic fallacy, right? Just because my mother told me 2 + 2 = 4, right? Or she told me, you know, or doesn't actually render the fact that it's the case that 2 + 2 = 4, right? That might be justified by some other means. I wouldn't justify it because my mom told me to, right? So we're not going to be interested in how the belief in God came about.
Oh, that's totally relevant. Oh, it's totally relevant how that belief came in. Yes, it is.
How is it relevant?
Because some people, and this has been demonstrated in the lab, some people will believe something because they've been told. Some people will believe something because they have had a delusion. Some people will believe something because they're superstitious.
Look, I could grant, right, that some people come to true beliefs, right, through in an unjustified way, right? That's not interesting. Again, listen, you're not keeping up with the conversation. The idea is that you made the claim that scientific evidence is required to justify that God exists, right? And all I'm asking for is for your justification of that. And I don't think you can do it. You're about to, and I can predict it. You're not going to be able. What you're about to say is not justification. You're going to appeal to some other irrelevant tangent of an argument.
And you're just shifting the burden onto me.
How?
By the question that you just asked.
Did you not say that you require empirical scientific evidence to justify that God exists?
Yeah, but I'm taking it that, but I'm taking it that you.
No, this is where I stop you, because you're saying that I shifted the burden of proof when you made the initial claim. So now
because you're asking me, I draw
the line at dishonesty, right?
You're asking me to explain all these things, all this stuff.
I shifted the burden of proof to you, right? That was false because you're the one that presented the claim. Who's the one in the room that was like, show me an evidence for God, show me for evidence for God? And then I asked you, what do you mean by evidence? And you pointed to empirical evidence. And then I said, so you think you require empirical evidence for the existence of God, right? And then I asked you to justify the claim. So how, in that narrative, how did we get to me shifting the burden of proof? Explain.
Will you let me explain?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm saying, it may be poorly worded, but you guys keep asking me for all these explanations of philosophical concepts and stuff that I have admitted I'm not neck deep in. Okay, I admit that, but okay, so that's all I'm saying by shifting the burden. You're asking me to explain all these things.
Listen, buddy, there's no way you're going to be able to get into a discussion with somebody else and answer no questions, right? You for this to be able to proceed, you're going to have to be able to respond and interact with us, right? So
yes,
you said, look, evidence for God has to be empirical. Do you believe there are forms of evidence that are not empirical? Do you believe there are other types of evidence?
I'm not aware of any.
You're not aware?
Do you know what a priori means?
It's something like before, kind of.
Not having to experience. Something like not having to experience.
How many of you are theists?
We're all theists.
Okay.
Most of the server.
Okay. But I mean, again, we're just talking about philosophy.
Yeah, but look, this is the point that was made earlier, was that philosophy undergirds science. So, for example, let me explain to you what I mean. If you were trying to identify some sort of concept in science, like say a sun, right? You know what the law of identity is? It's a law of logic, right? You can't have an A. You can't talk about an A unless you can identify an A. It's the skeleton by which science works. You can't have one without the other.
Okay. I have another question. Are you guys interested in getting in maybe some more people into this server that have a more philosophical background and are atheists or non-believers?
That's up to Tom.
Yes, please.
Right, because it's like I experienced this kind of in the opposite. We would have a bunch of atheists and non-believers, and then we would get a theist in the room, and 5 people would pounce on that one theist or whatever.
We're always looking for more converts. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
But seriously, the point we were trying to drive home is there are other kinds of evidence that are not empirical. You're saying that any evidence for God has to be empirical in nature, so you're going to have to justify that, right? We're not just going to accept that. Why can't there be other kinds of evidence for God?
Are we still partying with the new atheist?
Well, I think the point
the
is
guy that said that all objective knowledge, all objective truths have to be empirical was insane. I mean, how would you justify that given a bachelor? How are you going to justify what a bachelor is given empirical evidence?
Yeah, the point is like, not all of our beliefs are beliefs that we have evidence for.
Okay.
There's some
on this.
There's some beliefs we can't have evidence for, but nonetheless we believe.
Okay, so let me, if I get this wrong, let me know. You're saying that you have evidence for God. You have evidence for God, but it's not like empirical evidence.
Well, like what evidence do you have, for example, that you're not? What evidence do you have that you're not a brain?
Did I assess your position correctly?
What evidence do you have you're not a brain in a vat?
You didn't answer my question. Like, you guys have been asking me a lot of questions. Like, I think it's fair.
Are you asking if you can have evidence for if we're talking about God evidence that isn't empirical? Yeah, of course. Now answer my question.
Okay, say your question again.
Do you have evidence that you're not a brain in a vat?
I mean, it's kind of a funny way to ask that question.
Okay, how about if I ask you, what evidence do you have that you're not a brain in a vat? Is that a less funny way to ask it?
People, Jesus.
Well, I don't have any evidence. I don't have any evidence to lead me to think that I am a brain in a vat.
Oh my God!
Like you're asking. I've heard this, concept before, but you're asking it in a way I've never.
No. Like the point is,
let's make it easier. Make it easier.
What evidence do you have? Hold on, Jay. What evidence do you have to believe that you can actually trust your cognitive faculties, right? What's to say you're not, living in a simulation or a brain in a vat, and all of these experiences you're having are just synthesized?
Okay. I think I can answer that. Okay. The very, very short answer is consilience or concordance. Like if I knock on this table, I can feel my hand hitting it. I can see it hitting it.
Consistent with the simulation.
Consistency, concordance.
Well, hold on. You don't think there could be an advanced simulation that could generate that response back to your nerves?
Well,
or that auditory response back to your spinal cord?
I understand that. I know. But the question that you asked is, what reason do you have to believe that you can trust your senses? That's the question that you asked.
The original question was, what evidence do you have? Because that's what you were asking.
That I'm not a brain in a vat.
That's what you were contending.
Right? But the question, if I'm not mistaken, the question that was asked was, what evidence do I have that I'm not a brain in a vat? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the burden of proof is not on disproving that I'm a brain.
He's not saying that you are. He's saying, how do you know you're not?
Look, the whole point is you have the belief that you're not a brain in the vat, even though you can't have evidence for or against that proposition.
I don't know that I'm not. Like, that's not my position. It's entirely possible, but like it's one of those like really far-fetched.
But you have the belief.
Right. So, but you either are a brain in a vat or you're not a brain in a vat, right?
If I was a brain in a vat and I was being fed all this sensory stimuli, yeah, it could simulate being.
So which position do you
experience.
Take? Do you take the position that you are a brain in a vat or that you are not a brain in a vat?
There's more positions than that.
What? Like what?
Actually,
there's not. It's a duck's ass.
What other positions are there?
I don't have any reason to think that I am a brain in a vat.
Look, man.
Do you have any reason to think that you're not a brain in a vat?
Well, okay, so I tried to answer this question before, and then hold on. It was pointed out, everything that you experience the guy with the deep voice, I don't know who it was. He was like, I pointed out the concordance between my sensory stimuli, and then he said, yeah, but it could all be simulated.
Yeah, I was saying that.
Okay. Right. So, okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's why my position is I don't have any reason to think that I am a brain in a vat.
But you place so much. Go ahead, Nikolash.
The whole point is that he believes that the external world is real and that he's not a brain in the vat, even though that's not a falsifiable hypothesis. You couldn't have evidence for or against that proposition.
Okay, well, what's your guys' answer? Maybe I could learn something from you.
That's the whole point of whether or not it's consistent. If it's consistent with both hypotheses, then you have no reason to believe either.
The only thing we're saying is that you could there could be no evidence for something and you'd still have a reason to believe it.
Jesus Christ.
That's Muff.
Hey, Muff, you're an asshole.
Okay, I mean, I'm willing to take on, ideas and evaluate them, but I'm not gonna necessarily, accept an idea as soon as it's presented to me.
Try not to say necessarily so much.
Did we decide that you were an atheist or an agnostic? Or a lactose?
I don't believe in a God. And I don't know exactly how you guys are defining those terms, so I'm just gonna say I don't believe any gods exist, okay?
Do you believe in the Trinity?
No.
Do you think it's coherent?
Well, it depends on what properties it has. I mean, if you're gonna if somebody tells me that God is all-knowing and all-powerful and all-caring, I'm gonna say no.
You're gonna say no?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no because of the problem of evil.
Because of the problem of evil. Could you explain the problem of evil for me?
When bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people.
What about the deist God?
That's the problem of evil?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Is it the evidence?
That's the Odyssey. Huh?
Is it the evidential problem of evil?
Evidential? Oh. See, now we're getting down a philosophical rabbit hole.
There's two different problem of evil.
Please explain.
But you knew the problem of evil, though.
I know that every day.
You said you would say no because of the problem of evil.
Okay, do you understand that there's more technical definitions and then there's more everyday definitions of these things? Not everybody knows textbooks worth of philosophical knowledge. When I'm talking about the problem of evil, I'm talking about when something shitty happens.
Why is evil a problem to you?
Because when we were talking about is the Trinity coherent, and I said no because of the problem of evil.
I have a question.
That's what I said.
Yeah, why? How does that follow?
You're kind of quiet, Danny.
How do you define evil?
I thought we could wait and get to that. He said that the Trinity isn't coherent because of the problem of evil, Danny. I'm not sure what the fuck he means.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, I actually said that. I said all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-caring. If that's the definition.
Dude, that's not the Trinity. Jesus Christ.
I was just saying as an example. I was just saying as an example. Okay.
I'm gonna give you a hint. It's gonna be omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscient.
It's what?
Well,
omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent.
I would say that doesn't work very well with the problem of evil.
Okay, so but are you saying that there is
working with the
now
problem.
Space Raptor? Are you saying that there are things that are evil in the world?
Well, according to the Bible, yes.
Okay, so how did
Can I there's actually a chapter.
Oh.
It basically says nothing, and this is just summing it up, nothing bad is going to happen to you if you like believe and worship God. It's something approximated.
False.
Yes, there is.
No, there's
yes,
not.
There is. Yeah,
Look,
there is.
I was a Christian for 30 years. There is nothing in the Bible that says that nothing bad will happen to you as long as you believe.
It's something. Let me find it. It's something like Psalm 90 or Proverb 90 or 91. Hold on. Just give me a second.
You're like, no, I don't know what.
Look, you do good stuff, don't have bad stuff happen.
He's going to be looking forever.
Hold on.
I think he's being quite receptive. Is there any way you can bring in more JP-esque people?
I have tried, but they're I think debated out. Like they just like I've tried to lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. So
are they more Discord or Reddit people?
Well, recently we shifted to Discord about 2 weeks ago. We used to be on Tiny Chat and Voxley.
Did they seem a lot more talkative online?
Is there a server that you have?
We have our own server, and we're probably not going to let you guys in.
No, but that doesn't really make much sense. You can. It's got to work both ways.
Why wouldn't you let anybody in?
No, I mean, like, I'm not just gonna. Like, I don't think they necessarily want anybody else in.
Why? Well, no, but I mean, you can drop the invite for this server in that server. And then
I have.
Facilitate, because we're going to need like a middleman with this, because I think.
And I told you I have done that. I said I've tried to lead these horses to water, but I can't make them drink.
What's your server?
It's a server on Discord.
Oh.
Amazing. Are you looking for that verse, Space Raptor?
Yes, I'm trying to and answer questions at the same time.
Come on, invite me to your server, buddy.
I don't know if I should. I mean,
why?
I could.
Why would you not?
I can ask.
Invite anyone. Definitely don't invite him. But look.
I'm the most.
I've been quite a placid person with this. I've tried to mediate, right? So just invite me. I'll take any flack, and we'll move people across in a way where it's not. You know what I mean? It's not difficult. Don't invite JJ. He's a dickhead. Now
I'm a sweetheart.
That's one way of describing it. But yeah, we'll try. That's a better way to do it, Space Raptor, and then we can facilitate more people going between the servers, right? And in that way,
right.
I'm probably the most.
So he's got an invite to his server.
Well, he's going to invite me.
Am I?
Well, I mean, I'm probably the best person out of all. I try to facilitate these things rather than stir the shit. So I'm probably the best. I don't want to sound like I'm sucking my own cock, but I'm probably the better person to invite. Just because I'm not a dickhead.
Okay.
And then we've got 1 for 1. You're in our server. I'm in your server. You know.
I can ask, but I don't want to just like invite somebody without like asking.
Server?
I mean, listen. Let me just let you in on a secret. So I'm like a mod, but I don't actually have mods. I don't need them because I'm so good at facilitating, just calmly talking people down and ordering the chat, right? So I'm not really here to facilitate fighting. If that helps you in any way, if you let them know that's how I am. If you notice, if you click my name, you'll see I don't actually have any nods, but I'm probably the most respected person here in that capacity. So respected that I don't need mods. Even if I did have them and they were to be taken away.
Why are you pretending to be me, Ray? Seriously.
Look, your friends just sound like a bunch of pussies.
Is it not a public server? Can't anybody join?
Let me see if it's open.